Good morning, everyone. Welcome into this day with Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. If this is your first time here or your 101st time, we are glad you are here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulders, or you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad you are here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square, or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we're glad you are here. If you sing like angels, like our choir, or mumble behind the hymnal, like me, we are glad you are here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you are here. My name is Peg Hunter, and I'm a member of the board here at QUUF. As we gather, I acknowledge that the water, land, and shoreline here in Port Townsend are the traditional territory of the S'Klallam and Chemakum peoples. We honor and acknowledge our Indigenous members and neighbors and vow to restore and sustain their homelands. If you're visiting today, I offer a special welcome and invite you to join us for refreshments and conversation in the fellowship hall after the service. We have a newcomers table near the patio doors where our greeters are ready to answer any questions you might have. Welcome to you all this morning. We're so glad you're here. We have some announcements this morning. You are invited to enjoy conversation, coffee, and treats after the Sunday service today in the sanctuary. The stewardship team is hosting this community building conversation. We'll discuss the questions, why are you here, and what are your dreams for QUUF, for about 45 minutes. This is a chance to reflect and share. It's also a time to connect and hear from others. It will start about 10 minutes after the service ends. Get your coffee and join us in the sanctuary, please. The QUF Board of Trustees is sponsoring 2 gatherings related to our future, to the future of QUUF. The first one is the State of the Fellowship meeting on Tuesday, January 28th from 6 to 8. This is our mid-church year update for all of you, and we will inform people about the financial situation and also have some speakers updating us about the RE and other programs at QUUF. Please join us for conversation from 6 to 6:30, and then for the State of the Fellowship here in the sanctuary. The second event is a Searching for the Future forum. Saturday, February 8th, please mark your calendars. There will be a choice of a morning session from 9:30 to 12:30 or an afternoon session from 1:30 to 3:30. We will be working with an experienced facilitator named Rachel Maxwell, who will guide us in exploring our collective ideas. And the purpose of this forum or this gathering is an opportunity to engage in discussion that will help us articulate our mission statement and vision statement to guide our leadership and launch our long-range planning. Really important that we have everybody there. Let us settle our minds and calm our hearts.
sorrow, yet the bleakness winters bring turns into the fruits of spring. Hallelujah, hallelujah, life is ours to treasure. Hallelujah, hallelujah, life is ours to treasure. Grief and pain and consternation sweep our hearts and blight our nation, yet with love the pain will cease, and with wisdom give us peace. Hallelujah, hallelujah, life is ours to treasure. Hallelujah, hallelujah, life is ours to treasure. Lo, the Christ child in the manger gave us love to calm the stranger. May we reach out then and dare give ourselves because we care. Hallelujah, hallelujah, life is ours to treasure. Hallelujah, hallelujah, life is ours to
Good morning. Is it safe? Okay, let's try that again. Good morning. That's better. Our opening words are by Elena Westbrook. In a world ravaged by violence, by hatred, by conflicts that seem eternal and insoluble, sometimes the only thing we can do is be still for a moment and to remind ourselves what is real. That the sun rose this morning, the dirt under our feet, the air whispering in and out of our lungs. This hour, try just to be present with each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy. It is good to be together this morning, friends. Will you join me in our words for the lighting of our chalice? We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the light that flows around us. It is our beacon as we search for truth. It is the warmth in our hearts for love. It is the energy that propels us to action. May we be kindled by our time together. Our opening song is Come Sing a Song With Me. If you want to look in the gray hymnal, the number is 346.
Come
when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love in the rose and the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Nothing like a good waltz to start off our singing today. It's our time for all ages, so I invite all those who are young in body or spirit. Hey, whoa, yay. We are excited this morning. Always excited. There are some days that just exhibit it even more. How are y'all today? How's folks? How are you guys? You guys okay? I have this great story for us today. It's called Karl and the Meaning of Life. And just take a look at you can, if you want to take a look at the front. You brought a duck. That's so awesome. So if you take a look, you can see, here's Karl. See, Karl's like way down here in the earth. Karl is an earthworm. And Karl has a purpose in his life. We're going to be talking about the purpose of our fellowship today in the service. So I thought we would learn about Karl's purpose in his life. Karl was not a bird. Karl was not a bear or a beaver. Karl was an earthworm. He lived underground, always moving, burrowing, tunneling, digesting dead leaves, feasting, and casing. That's pooping for worms, just to let you know. Turning hard dirt into fluffy soil day after day. Why? Asked a field mouse, gathering seeds. Why do you do that? Why? Karl did not know why. Now he needed to find out, so Karl stopped making fluffy soil. I'll be right back, he told the field mouse. He spotted a rabbit. Maybe she knew. Why do I do what I do? He asked her. Oh, goodness dear, she said. I do not know. I do what I do for my babies. But Karl did not have babies. A fox appeared. Karl turned to the fox. Why do I do what I do? Karl asked. Who do I do it for? For whom? Replied the fox. Alas, my meal awaits. I am here for the hunt. But Karl did not want to hunt. Why are you talking to a fox? Cried a squirrel. Karl was startled and said, because the field mouse is waiting and wants to know what I am here for. The squirrel declared, I am here to plant trees. Trees are where I sleep. But Karl could not sleep, not high in a tree, and not without an answer for the mouse. He pushed on and on. Hours turned into days until the soil was no longer fluffy. The ground around Karl turned barren and dry while he continued to search. But the birds had flown off to find grasses and fluff, and the bear trundled away to look for berries. Soon there was nobody left to talk to. Ah, ah. What about me? Said Karl. Is this very sad? This is very sad. So the clouds were silent, and so was the air. I will never find out, he sniffed. And then Karl heard his sniffle echo followed by a squeak. "I can't find any grubs," a voice cried. It was the saddest ground beetle he had ever seen. Karl peeked under a stone. No grubs. Then he poked at the dirt. It was hard as a rock. And where was his fluffy soil? Oh no. Suddenly, Karl knew what he needed to do. "I'll be back," he promised. For hours, into days, weeks, into months, Karl munched, digested, and left castings and tunneled that hard dirt back into nice, rich soil. "You made my seeds grow," said the mouse. Clover blossomed once again, and the rabbit came back to her kits. The squirrel returned to plant new trees. The fox was lured by the hunt, all of them able to do what they do. How? Well, why not ask Karl? Sometimes we don't think we're very important in the world, you know? And the thing to remember, and that I hope you all, each one of you remember, is that you have an importance in the world, as do all of you out there as well. And that's our story for today about Karl. I invite the adults along the aisle to stand and form an arch, and let's sing them out.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
We pause for a time of generosity and to receive an offering which today goes to QUUF's commitment to the emergency shelter. I invite Kathy Stevenson to come forward and tell us more about it.
Thank you, Karl. We are in our 4th month of providing homemade dinners, mostly, 5 nights a month at the shelter at the basement of the American Legion Hall. We hope to continue this until the shelter closes in June. It's one of the ways that we support our commitment to working with Bayside Housing and Services. So far, our volunteer cooks are funding the ingredients for the meals out of their own pockets. They have been generous with their time and their finances. We feel a more sustainable model is to share the expenses. And in that way, the cooks and servers can give the donation of time, and the rest of us can contribute to the financial cost. So this is what our offering will go to today, the cost of the ingredients for the meals for the next few months. Speaking of meals, we're a few short for this week's meals. Thursday and Friday could use some people. The sign-up sheet is always out on the foyer table right outside between these 2 doors. And we've also have the sign-ups ready for for February. Over 50 of us have been involved so far this year. We have fun. It's a great way to be with people that you know or don't know. And we've received an abundance of appreciation from the folks at the shelter. And we know that we're putting our many of our values into action. There's photos of us on the kiosk, one panel of the kiosk out in the foyer. Join us.
Thank you, Kathy. The ushers will come among you to sing. The ushers will walk down the aisles and they'll receive your generous donations. Please join me in our offering words. This fellowship is the community of ourselves Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. It's what we share. As we contribute to the life of its community, we affirm our lives within it.
There you are. We set aside time each week to share our personal joys and sorrows, and we recognize that they are only a small part of the joys and sorrows of the larger community of life. And so we're placing our first stone today, thinking in particular of family and friends and all the residents, human and otherwise, in the Los Angeles area. May they be safe, may they be well, and let us hold them in love and hope. Within the congregation, we light a candle and share the news that most of you have heard, I'm sure by now, that Nancy Sendler died earlier this week. There are plans for a memorial being made. We will let you know when that is going to happen. Nantobi Terrell asks for a candle of joy for the birthdays of her son, Todd Sean Terrell, and grandson, Ethan Edward Terrell, for giving her the gift of love, hope, and surprise as they keep growing. We light a candle of joy for Dean and Kathy Carr, who celebrated their 49th anniversary on January 10th, and the adventure continues. I don't know how that's possible. Y'all are only, what, 35? I mean, it's hard to imagine that it could be 49 years. We place the final stone holding in our hearts these joys and sorrows, and also thinking of those joys and sorrows that are held quietly in our hearts, but of no less importance. Thank you. We begin a time of meditation and reflection today with a poem by Denise Levertov, and then a few words and a time of stillness together. From Denise Levertov. It is hard sometimes to drag ourselves back to the love of morning after we have lain in the dark crying out, "Oh God, save us from the horror." God has saved the world one more day. Even with its leaden burden of human evil, we wake to birdsong. And if sunlight's gossamer lifts in its net the weight of all that is solid, our hearts too are lifted, swung like laughing infants. But on gray mornings, all incident, our own hunger, the dear tasks of continuance, the footsteps before us in the earth's beloved dust, leading the way, all, it is hard to love again, for we resent a summons that disregards our sloth, and this calls us. In the presence of that which breaks our hearts, let us affirm again that we are called to wholeness and health. In the presence of that which is leaden, which drags us from our birthright of song and joy, let us affirm the possibilities that life offers, the blessings of rain and sun, all the goodness that calls us if we stop and listen. Let us pause in stillness together. Amen. Our first reading today comes from Anne Lamott's essay, Knocking on Heaven's Door. In this passage, she is telling a story about Renola and Ken, who were part of the church that she attended. Ken, she says, has been attending for a while, and he is dying from AIDS. The essay was published in a collection in 1999, 5 years before the AIDS epidemic peaked. And if you remember that time, you know that treatment was unavailable, and there was a lot of suspicion and a lot of fear around it. She writes, "There's a woman in the choir named Renola who is large and beautiful and jovial and black and as devout as can be, who has always been a little standoffish toward Ken. She has always looked at him with confusion when she looks at him at all. She was raised in the South by Baptists who taught her that his way of life, that he was an abomination. It is hard for her to break through this, but Kenny came to church almost every week for the last year and won almost everyone over. He finally missed a couple of Sundays when he got too weak, and then a month ago he was back weighing almost no pounds. His face was more lopsided, as if he'd had a stroke. Still, during the prayers of the people, he talked joyously about his life and his decline, of grace and redemption, of how safe and happy he feels these days. So on this one particular Sunday, for the first hymn, the so-called morning hymn, we sang Jacob's Ladder, which goes, every round goes higher, higher. While ironically, Kenny couldn't even stand up. But he sang anyway, sitting down with the hymnal in his lap. And then when it came time for the second hymn, the fellowship hymn, we were to sing His Eye is on the Sparrow. The pianist was playing and the whole congregation had risen, only Ken remained seated. And we began to sing, why should I feel discouraged? Why do the shadows fall? And Renola watched Ken rather skeptically for a moment, and then her face began to melt and contort like his, and she went to his side and bent down to lift him up, lifted up this white rag doll, this scarecrow, and she held him next to her, draped over and against her like a child while they sang, and it pierced me. I can't imagine anything but music, thank you, choir. I can't imagine anything but music that could have brought about this alchemy. Maybe it's because music is about as physical as it gets. Your essential rhythm is a heartbeat. Your essential sound, the breath. We're walking temples of noise, and when you add tender hearts to this mix, somehow it lets us meet in places we couldn't get any other way. There ends the reading.
This next reading is written by Victoria Safford, entitled The Gates of Hope. Our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, not the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, nor the strident gates of self-righteousness, which creak on shrill and angry hinges. People cannot hear us there. They cannot pass through. Nor the cheerful, flimsy garden gate of everything is going to be all right. But a different, sometimes lonely place. The place of truth-telling about your own soul, first of all, and its condition. The place of resistance and defiance. The piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be and as it will be. The place from which you glimpse not only struggle, but the joy of the struggle. And we stand there beckoning and calling, telling people what we are seeing and asking people what they see.
I think I probably have mentioned every time we have sung that song that that the fun fact about it is that when the Hymnal Commission was creating our at that time 1996-ish new gray hymnal, the first decision they made about the hymnal was to put that song first, and I have always loved that piece of trivia about it. And you're probably going to hear that another few times. Just noting that I do that sort of thing. So back in the summer of 2023, I attended my first service here at QUUF, and I asked for a few moments to say hello and share a few remarks. I started off by telling the story of my most favorite answering machine message from decades ago when that technology was still new. In my last congregation, I had gathered that it was a story that I told possibly every year, and I'm proud to have managed to have gotten a year and a half before I tell it again. You've been warned. So my friend Steve was a multi-talented musician who played any instrument with strings and a few others, sang with a lovely voice, and he had the best answering machine message. You remember back in the day when those were really new and we all made these quirky little machine, messages, you know what to do, beep, just like all that stuff. But Steve's message was really good. It was, phone is ringing, but I ain't home. Leave your message at the beeping tone. Can't tell you how long. Will you have to wait? Or will I call you back? Or will I hesitate? I loved Steve's answering machine message. And so when we were, as it happened, having dinner one night, I think it was Christmas Eve, at his apartment, I was moaning to him about how much I hated my answering machine message, and he offered to create one for me. He wrote it, I sang it, and then he had all this crazy, he was a musician, he had all this equipment that he could do things. Then he laid down 3 lines of harmony on it. And this is it. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a strange occurrence if I'm home when you call me. So leave your name and number at the beeping tone, and I'll call you back when I get back home. I wish I still had that message, I tell you. It was such a great one. And then a few years after that, there was I got a newsletter from the UU Ministers Association, and they had this one little column. It's the only time I've ever seen it. And it said, hey, I could use that. And it was about another answering machine message that was just incredibly clever. And here's the message. This is not an answering machine. It's a questioning machine. And you know what the questions are. Who are you and what do you want? Take care as you answer. Philosophers and theologians have sought to answer these questions for a millennia and failed. Beep! We don't do that anymore. I mean, that was so fun. Back then, a year and a half ago, I suggested that these were indeed the crucial questions that we would be working on during my time as developmental ministry. A third question was suggested to me by a story a colleague told me about being in a class on worship when he was in seminary. And he said in this rather large and diverse class, it was at the University of Chicago Divinity School, that the professor had split them all into groups and given them assignments for different parts of the service, right? Each little group was supposed to do something. And he wound up in the little circle that was supposed to figure out the prayer. Now, the thing was that it was a very diverse group. It wasn't a single denomination. So there was a UU humanist in the group, and he was opposed to the notion of prayer at all. And then one of the mainline Christian folks said, well, Jesus had to be in it, and the pagan said, no, we need to be grounding ourselves. And anyhow, it just continued on. They could not figure out what they were going to do. The professor realized that this was the case and came over to them and asked what the problem was. And someone said, well, the first problem is we can't figure out what to call it. And the professor said, what to call it? What to call it? Call it forth. And those two stories, again, help us get started on thinking about the mission workshop that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. What is it we wish to call forth in ourselves, in our community here at QUUF, and in the world? How many of you know the mission by heart? Woo! Go Sarah Walker! Yes! Did I see it? I think that's the only hand I saw. Okay, so here it is, right? And you will not when you hear this, right? We come together to seek our truths, honor our diversity, serve with love, and work for justice in the world. Now, it is really hard to argue with the intention to seek truth, honor diversity, and serve with love and work for justice. Yet I admit that when I read this, I was not really very inspired. And I wondered if creating a new mission would be a good project for QUUF to undertake. There's energy missing in that statement, for me at least, and I acknowledge that my standards may be too high. One of the best times I saw a mission expressed was during a youth workshop, a week-long youth gathering called Goldmine. It was a leadership development week that was held here in the Pacific Northwest District. 20 youth and an adult staff of 4 or 5 would hole up in a church for a week and explore what it meant to be a leader, to teach skills in facilitation and group dynamics, and to inspire participants to take seriously what they could accomplish in the world. In the introduction to the week, there was always this story that they told, the outlines of which I can no longer remember. But the key to it and why it was told was the question, what is it for us to do? The answer to it was, it is for us to heal the world. And when they did this, like at any moment during the week, someone could say, what is it for us to do? And every one of them went, it is for us to heal the world. Right? I mean, this was awesome. And they raised their hands and they shouted it. And the youth who went through this program went on just transformed and ready to serve. Many of them became ministers, others became leaders in a variety of ways. And I'll acknowledge that that mission instilled in those youth was not particularly specific, but it had a power to it that was absolutely tangible. If I have a hope for the process that we're going to go through in February, it's that we'll find something that has that kind of power to it. Maybe not that strong, not that, you'll all be raising up your arms and yelling, but something that moves us in that kind of way. The mission needs to have some sort of deep energy in it, in my opinion. It needs to answer those eternal questions. Who are you? And what do you want? And it needs to call forth from you and from me a commitment, a promise, a hope, a possibility of a world made new. If someone was to ask it what it is for us to do, I would hope there would be something in it that would cause us to shout, it is for us to heal the world, and mean it. This workshop comes at a time when the country is moving into some chaotic space, and when we will be tested to keep our humanity, to protect the vulnerable, to speak the truth in the face of lies and obfuscation. I didn't get that word right, but y'all know what I mean. We will need words that can help to center us on what it is for us to do, that will inspire us and help us to heal what is broken, to find those who are lost, and to keep our humanity through this difficult time. So what do we want, friends? I want QUUF to be a place of transformation where we get opened in love and care for the wide world. The story that Anne Lamott tells about Renola and Ken is the kind of thing that can happen for us and among us. I worked in an outreach ministry on the north side of Chicago from 1988 to 92. And the north side of the Chicago, the area we were, was often referred to as Boys Town. It was the gay community there. If you remember that time, people I knew were going to funerals every week. 2 of my colleagues were diagnosed with HIV during that time. One of them died during the time I was there. And I know that the fear that was around that disease and all of it was huge and potent. It was so potent to go through all of that. There's a quote on your order of service by poet Marge Piercy. I had that when I served in Chicago. I had that hand-lettered, that phrase, hand-lettered and framed, sitting on my desk. It served as my inspiration as I helped find and create housing for homeless youth while I was working there. It is, we seek not rest, but transformation. We are dancing through each other as doorways. How can we dance through each other as doorways? What is it for us to do as we move into another time in our country that is filled with fear and danger? How can we best open our hearts like Renola, embrace the broken and the lost and the endangered? How do we enact that kind of transformation in our own hearts and then take it into the world? How shall we dance through each other in this weary world to find transformation? What calls to you? What do you want? The words from Victoria Stafford that Karl shared speak to this to a large degree, I think. She suggests that we seek a different, sometimes lonely place, the place of truth-telling about your own soul, first of all, and its condition, the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it can be, the place from which you glimpse not only struggle, but the joy of struggle. And we stand there beckoning and calling, telling people what we see, asking people what they see. In a couple of weeks, we will have the chance to imagine, create, and explore what it is for us to do in the world. Our facilitator who will come and help us with this is a highly skilled consultant, and she will guide us through our conversations with each other and then assist us in creating a mission statement that speaks to the questions of that answering machine message so long ago. Who are you and what do you want? I trust the process itself will be transformative and that it will be a time for us to dance through each other as we imagine more deeply how it is we will save the world. And I ask you, my friends, what is it for us to do? It is for us to heal the world. Let's make it so. Amen. Our closing song is Woyaya. If you want it in the hymnal, it's 1020 in the Teal book.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there, heaven knows how.
Our closing words by Kelly Jackson. I send you out now to share yourself with the world. May its promise and complexity set your mind ablaze. May you hold fast to what your life has taught you. May you question everything. And when you have changed the world, and the world has changed you, may you return to this place and share what you have learned with us. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish our flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, my dear, but the fire is so and so delightful, delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, oh no. And I got some corn popping, it's popping. The lights are turned way down low. Lights are down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight. How I hate going out in the snow, in the snow. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear is still goodbying. But as long as you love me so, you love me so, let it snow, 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 let it cover the ground with a blanket of snow. The weather outside is frightful, so frightful, but the fire is so delightful, so delightful. And since we have no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I brought some corn for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.